welcome back to my channel. Today I am making a video on Denmark, and I've been thinking about doing this for like more than a month. I started thinking about it as I started this channel, and it's almost been 2 months. So today I'm doing it, finally getting it done, and I thought that I would be true to Denmark and wear something red and fancy because the Danish flag is red. So yeah, anyway, I won't do any more talking, so let's just get into the video. First things first, the Denmark that we know today, like the geographical Denmark, has existed for thousands of years. And the traces of the first humans in Denmark is approximately 10,000 years before Christ. So we've been here basically always. And we're pretty sure that we came from Russia and then came down over Scandinavia, and then some people settled in Sweden and Norway and Denmark, and other people they just continued down into the more southern Europe and just stayed there. But there were some people who stayed in Denmark, and they started like fishing, and they did a lot of crops and so on, and therefore they just kind of started doing everything on their own. And then like 11,000 years later there were suddenly Vikings, and you've heard about Vikings, I know that for sure. Vikings were basically Danish. They were Danish and also some of the other Scandinavian countries, but Denmark is a huge part of it. We were Vikings because we were big and we were brutal, and we knew how to trade things, and we got a lot of slaves from Africa and so on, so we were actually kind of a bad country, but we were also kind of badass, and we owned these huge landmarks and parts of the US, and we kind of ruled over England at some point, and we had a Danish king on the throne in England. That's also the reason why some of the English language actually comes from Danish. Like an egg in Danish, that's egg. It's basically the same. It comes from Danish, and we ruled basically everything. But then Sweden was a bitch and took everything away from us, and we lost like Sweden and Norway back in like 18 something, beginning of the 18th, and we also lost part of Denmark, actually the southern part of Denmark. But then like a few hundred years later we got that back, and actually this year we're celebrating that we got it back because that's part of all of the place where my mother actually is from. That like 100 years ago that was German. So, and the first king that we hear about is someone called Gorm the Old, and we hear about it from his son, who is called Harold Bluetooth, and I'm figuring it has something to do with the Bluetooth, but I don't really know. And he wrote on these stones in a city called Jelling, therefore the stones are called Jelling stones, and he wrote that he made the people Christian, and his father was the first king. So, and besides from like Portugal, Denmark has the longest like reign of kings and queens, and our current queen, Margrethe II, she can trace her like ancestor back more than 1,000 years. That's pretty impressive, right? Besides that, we're also one of the only countries that still have a monarchy. And we have a queen. Her name is Margrethe. She's called Margrethe II because, yeah, she's number 2. We, have a crown princess, and there was this whole like romantic thing with our crown prince. He went to Australia, then he fell in love with a girl and brought her home, and now she's a crown princess, and they had a boy, then they had a girl, and then they had twins, a boy and a girl, and everything's just perfect, and their wedding was the most beautiful thing. And I was like 3 and I thought it was amazing. I still remember that it must have made like great impact on my life because I always thought that I was going to marry like her oldest son. It's only like 8 years younger than me or so, but it probably won't happen, but you know, I wish. Now, other than a queen and a monarchy, we also have the premier minister, which is chosen, you know, through democracy. You have a lot of different parties, and there are like the very social ones and the very liberal ones. And right now it's a social democrat who's like on the post. It changes all the time, and really a lot changes whether it's liberal or democratic on the post, so we kind of agree on everything. It's awesome. It's kind of crazy to hear about these other countries that's like, and everything's just and we just like each other. So we have this thing called hygge, and I'm pretty sure you've heard about it because it's like world famous by now, and there's several books on it. And it basically just means cozy, and like a cozy feeling, like when you're having fun with your friends, and you know, there are lit candles, and you're just having fun with blankets and everything, and it's really nice. I love hygge, and I know that other people feel it too. Other countries just don't have a name for it, and that's kind of cool, right? Also, we have 29 letters in our alphabet because we have the legendary AÖO. Our national animal is a swan, this white swan, this thing on its nose. And our national dish is called fried pork with a sauce of parsley or stikflæsk med persillesauce. We have like extremely soft D's. So we have this saying called rødgrød med fløde, and it's kind of this berry punch thing with cream on it, and it's delicious, but people can't say it. We celebrate Christmas on the 24th of December and not the 25th. In summer, students only have 6 weeks of holiday from the beginning of July until the middle of August. But then we have a week of vacation in October, and we have 2 weeks over the holidays, Christmas holidays, like the middle of December and until the beginning of January. Then we have 1 week of vacation in February, and we have an entire week of vacation going up to Easter. And then we have several bank holidays where we don't go to school. We have the second Easter day, Bride's Ascension. We have All Prayers Day, White Prayers Day. Then we're off at a Whitsun, and we have the entire day or half the day or not at all the day off at Constitution Day, which is the 5th of June. Okay, so the Danish Constitution law is basically a law that was written in 1849, where the king, he gave up his absolute power, and then it became a democratic like society. But because he saw what happened in France with the like French Revolution and everything, with all of the Ludwigs and everything that went on there, and he was like, well, if I don't like do what they want me to do, then I will lose all of my power and there will be no more monarchy. And because the king was smart and said, hey, let's have a democratic country, then he could still be a monarch, but not with as much power, and that basically saved like the Danes. And the Constitution law is actually just a bunch of laws about like Denmark, and it's the highest like set of rules there are for in Denmark. So you'll just have to go back to that and look at it, and it's been changed several times, but it's a huge process trying to change it. So people, they basically try not to change it. So I don't know why, but Danes love beach. Not a beach with waves, but you know, the tree, a beach. This is not a beach, but it could be. And I really can't tell you why, but we absolutely love it. And it's like every year, oh my god, the beach is here, it's time, it's spring. Everybody just completely fancies. Denmark is a very rainy country. So it approximately rains every 3 days, which is 121 days a year. It's actually not a lot. It's only a third of all other days. But these past few weeks, we've basically just had sun. That's kind of crazy because it's just like it's always raining. Also because if it isn't raining, it's probably grey outside. That's just kind of the life in Denmark. And the temperature only goes from like a minimum of -5 degrees Celsius and plus approximately 25 degrees Celsius. Of course, we have lower than that and higher than that, but most days it's about 15 degrees Celsius. That's like the average all year, like maybe between 10 and 15. And there are great days like these where it's 25, and then there's bad days where it's like -5 or minus more than that. Now, moving on to our flag. So, you know, it looks like this. It's red with this white cross that's kind of tilted. It's called Dannebro. I don't know why. It directly translated, it's like a Danish bridge, kind of. And it's set to come down from the sky during this battle. But it's supposed to be from back when there were crusades. We went, and myth doesn't make sense people Christian because yeah, we were badass but not very kind. We're way kinder now. So in Denmark we have 5,822,763 people. Denmark is 43,000 square kilometers, like big, which means that it could fit into America 228.7 times, and it could fit into Australia 178.8 times. So even though we're such a small country and only have 5.8 million people, we are actually kind of famous. We have a lot of famous people. I think one of the first ones is like Hans Christian Andersen, that famous writer who made all of those fairy tales and stuff. The Ugly Duckling and all of that. Then we have kind of like philosophers and like this guy. And we have this physics guy called Niels Bohr. And we have a bunch of famous actors like from Game of Thrones, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Also, Denmark is kind of famous for their green energy and all of our windmills. We use a lot of windmills. I think it's almost like 70% of our entire energy comes from like green energy, and it's basically just from windmills because we're surrounded by water, and water means wind, and it's always freaking windy in Denmark. So why not use it and make these windmills? And we are part of some of the largest companies like Vestas, for example, who, you know, helps produce windmills and help other countries. And by 2030, I think, or this is 2050, I don't know, we will be solely working our country on green energy that's great for the environment. So you probably heard that we have a free healthcare system because we pay a lot of taxes, but that doesn't matter because we get free education, and students who are older than 18, they are paid to study. After paying our taxes, we get approximately 5,000 Danish krones, which is almost 1,000 American dollars. Every month we have to do study. Ooh, and also we get 32 weeks paid maternity leave, and fathers within 2 weeks after the birth, they have 2 weeks of maternity leave paid. And other than that, the mother and the father can share the maternity leave, so they can both be home for like 3 or 4 months and be paid for it. Or the wife can stay home alone and for like 8 months, like full wages. So we do pay a lot of taxes. I think the minimum tax is, I think, 39% of your wages, and the maximum is maybe like 65%. But we get so much great stuff out of it. If you're out of a job, you get paid. There's just this security around the entire world, and like I said, we don't have to pay for education. Everything is free. Whenever a Dane is born, we get this social security number, and then each number is like a certain person's number. It's like their own ID, and with that number you can go into this database and you can see all the criminal records and just everything according to you, your bank information and everything. And girls, they have an even number and boys have an uneven number. And it consists of 10 numbers, where the first 6 are the your birthday and the year that you were born. And then like these 4 individual numbers, that's just your own, and you won't want to give out your social security number because it's basically your own, and if other people have, then they can access like everything. So the Danish country is very flat, and that means that we have a huge agriculture and we make food for so many people. We make food for way more people than we actually have in Denmark. But under that, we have a lot of, we have cows and a lot of pigs. Like, we have 6 times as many pigs produced every year as there are Danes in this country. That's a lot. It's fine, we just eat a lot of bacon and things, and we, export it everywhere. Like all of the bacon that you're eating in England, it's probably from a Danish pig. And we give you all of the good stuff and keep all the greasy stuff for ourselves. And it's a wonder that we're not fatter than we are, but actually, like overall, Danes are not really that fat. I think maybe part of why Danes aren't generally very fat is because we don't have a lot of fast food chains. So we have McDonald's and we have Burger King, and that's pretty much it. We have a lot of restaurants where you can go and buy fast food, but there's not a lot of chains and they're not everywhere at all. So Denmark is very small and we're surrounded by water, and therefore you cannot be longer than 1 hour away from water at all times. It's a very small country. We have like the four main big cities are Copenhagen, Aarhus, Odense and Aalborg. I live in Aalborg, which is like the 4th biggest city. And I think like 95% of students, they go to these 4 cities to study. And therefore, basically all of Denmark, they go to these 4 big cities and they meet each other. And therefore we feel like Denmark is so small. And we often say to each other, oh, the world is so tiny. But actually it's just Denmark that's tiny, and we kind of meet all of the same people. And when you meet someone, it's very normal that you know someone that they also know, and therefore you can have a conversation about that. As Danes, we love to hear about ourselves, like all the time. If there's just a tiny part of a movie or a book or anything where Denmark is mentioned or a Danish guy, it doesn't matter if that guy is evil or like the worst human being ever, or it's just some merchandise from Denmark, or it's kind of just like a pig or anything. We love hearing about ourselves. So we go into this solidarity and it's like, oh, we were mentioned. And it's just this one person, but we're a tiny country, so everything that gives us attention is a big deal. And the final one is, as you probably already know, Danes drink a lot. We can't drive a car until we're 18, but we can legally buy alcohol when we're 16, and there's no legal drinking age. So you could basically just start as a baby and no one would actually tell you not to. Probably would, but there's not a law against it. Okay, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!
We've been talking for an hour, we just can't find the end. We won't understand each other. I wonder how it feels to fall asleep and love the one that's next to me. I don't know why I'm stuck around with you. I've been told I should go.